Hello and welcome again to another tutorial video of basic fishing. A while ago I had released a video on how to tie a ledger rig. For those who wish to learn on how to make this rig and learn a few tips and tricks, make sure to check it out. The ledger rig is a great rig to use, but there are days when the ledger rig doesn't deliver at all, especially in some situations or you run into some obvious problems.
Fish! Oh, what the hell? God!
For today's tutorial video, I'm going to show you on how to tie a running rig, also known as the fish finder rig from overseas, and mention some tips and tricks on how to get the most out of this rig. This rig has to be one of the most basically constructed and oldest rig that many people will recognize and still use for today. It catches a lot of different species of fish, especially the big ones, and can be used on land-based, whether it is off the wharf, rock, or the beach. It can be even used from the boat around shallow waters, and even in freshwater where you are allowed to use bait. The design is very different from the ledger rig, but in certain situations and when used right, it can really help you to land that stubborn fish. Now this rig isn't hard to construct. The only problem is that this rig is used around places what I would describe as slightly situational. But before we get more into that, let's go over on how to construct this rig. So to give you some rough idea on what components that you need, I'll show you some of the stuff that I use. First component you need is a tough trace. 60 pound is what I like to use for surf casting or rock fishing, and sometimes wharf fishing if I am after like a good sized fish. Next is the rolling swivel. This rolling swivel is good because it's small yet it's really strong. Next are the hooks. Now I personally prefer to use the recurve hook style instead of the J hook style, because with recurve you don't need to strike, and also it always hooks at the corner of the mouth of the fish, so it's much more efficient for catch and release, especially if you end up hooking onto a small fish by accident. The smallest I would go is 4 barrows, and I would not use a 3 barrow unless I'm using it for the ledger rig. Next is either a running rig clip, which is specifically designed for a running rig, or the easy snap swivel. And finally, the last component that you will need is the soft luminescent beads. So yeah, these are the components that you will need. Alright, now that we've got our components all here ready to go, let's get started on making this running rig. So to start things off, I forgot I was recording, is that what I simply done is I got my swivel and I tied this to my main line, and I got my trace length, as you can see here, and this is roughly around the length of my forearm all the way to my finger, so up to my elbow and up to my finger. And what I do here is I get a bead and I slip it through. You don't have to add the bead, that's just completely optional. So for this demonstration I won't go with the bead, and I get my KL style hook 4 barrow from Black Magic, and what I simply do is a simple uni knot, one of the most effective knots to use in any fishing scenario. Just like that. Now I'm just gonna get my Now what I'm going to do here, that's all done here. So I'm going to get my bead through my main line, and that is sitting on top. And then I get my running clip with my sinker attached, and that is that. Easy as that. Also remember to cut your tag end. But as you can see, that is the running rig. Simple as that. Another alternative rig version of the running rig is you can connect it with a swivel, connect another swivel and your trace behind it, so that only the running clip isn't running all the way back through your main line, so that it only runs at a certain limitation. And the more traditional version is that instead of using this clip, you can use just a sinker directly. So yeah, there it is. A simple running rig, just like that. Now, a good tip I like to mention here now is that if you're using a braid to make your running rig, do not use your braid directly. Always use a mono leader. If you're using your clip to run down your braid or the sinker, it will cause abrasion, and one thing about braid is that it sucks against abrasion, and eventually it will wear it down, and the last mistake you want to make is lose a big fish or snap off during your casting. Another quick tip I like to mention is that for surf casting or any fishing that requires a long distance cast, I always use recurve hooks. But for close range species like carp or perori, and also in places where I don't need to cast out far, I use a J-style hook so that I can feel the bite and strike to hook on to the fish. Now that I have shown you on how to construct this rig, it is time to show how this rig works. The design of this rig allows the trace to sit away from the sinker and drift up and down the current, giving it a more of a natural presentation. So to a fish, it looks like an easy meal to scavenge on. When the fish grabs a bait and runs with it, the main line will run through the clip or swivel, hence the name running rig. This will allow the fish to pick up the bait and run without feeling any resistance or the weight of the sinker, which is ideal to use when the fish are super picky. Just remember to loosen your drag or have a bait runner reel ready. By having a running line, this will ensure that the fish will be able to run without feeling too much resistance at the end of the line, especially the more wary and larger fish. The prime objective with this rig is to fish in a more natural state to fool the fish. So, most of the time I use both the ledger rig and the running rig, with different hook size on any spots to see which rig has the most success rate, whether it is off the rocks, wharf or the beach. This rig is mostly suitable to use in calm harbor areas, clear waters or anywhere that is shallow, and it has been demonstrated here. In this video, where I was fishing at the Manukau Harbor and was using a ledger rig, after a while, with nothing but small fish and pickers just getting caught or worse, stealing the bait, the bigger fish proved to be ignoring the bait on the ledger rig. And other fishermen turned up and was using a running rig and was able to land 2 legal snappers. One proved to be a very good size. So I quickly switched my rigs to a running rig, and it wasn't long before I was able to land a good snapper as well. Another good location to use this rig is the calm, shallow beaches of the East Coast. As well, if the conditions are calm, you can also get away using this rig on the West Coast as well, if you are able to find a gutter that is calm enough. When conditions do get rough in the West Coast, I would then just use the ledger rig because of the turbulent current and the waves and the length of the trace, it will only result in a messy tangle which will make your effort fruitless. This rig is also great to target super sensitive fish like the perori or the koi carp in rivers or lakes, as carps are sensitive bottom feeders. So by having this method where they can suck in the bait from the bottom or won't have to feel any additional weight, they will be easy to catch. Sometimes you could even get lucky if you use this rig off the wharf, especially when you cast out a big bait, because an unwary kingfish might decide to chomp up on free lunch. Luckily for this kingy, it was undersized, so I released it back to fight for another day, and I really hope it's larger than it was before. Let's not forget a legal snapper at the heart of Auckland City as well, using a fillet of freshly caught slimy mackerel. It's even good enough to catch an octopus as well, which was totally unexpected. So, overall speaking, this rig is great to use to give off a more of a natural bait presentation, and it's usually good to use this rig in areas where the water is relatively shallow, calm, and crystal clear. Around deeper waters, the fish, like snapper, feel more safe and secure and aren't exactly line shy, but in the shallow waters, they can see better and are much more wary, and so by having a more natural presentation on the bait, you will be more likely to hook onto the fish than you would be with a ledger rig. Kahawai are highly adapted in hunting around shallow waters, so using a ledger rig against them is no issue, but for snapper in the shallows, a running rig will definitely help to improve the catch rate. Here on an urban beach, not far from the city, I was using a running rig, which helped me to land this snapper that looked very close to being legal. Instead of measuring it, I decided to let it go unharmed, but I'm pretty sure it would have been just borderline legal. Legal size for East Coast snappers, 30 centimeters, whereas the West is 27. So the pro of this rig is that it is simple to create and also simple to use. Due to more of a natural presentation look, the rig is more likely to hook on to those wary fish, even if it's just a penny, around conditions or areas that usually makes fishing very difficult. Now, even though this rig does have some good use to it, there were unforeseen challenges that I ended up facing with this rig. One major problem I had with this rig, especially through surfcasting, was that when I cast it out, the sinker flies first. It usually spins through the air, and when it does that, the trace which is being dragged behind the sinker spins around mid-air, which I call it the helicopter effect. If you look carefully in this footage, you'll see that helicopter effect, especially when I cast out a big bait like this whole piper on a running rig. This usually results in tangles and can sometimes ruin that perfect presentation. Even so, the rig still cast out reasonably well, and I was able to land some good fish with this rig. Depending on how big the bait is, it is kind of awkward to cast out, especially when you decide to swing your sinker to get some load onto your rod. But this problem is easily solved when using small baits. Also, make sure that your bait isn't a cube but a strip, so that the streamlined design will allow it to fly through the air, as you can see in this cast here in slow motion. Of course, I had additional components, but the bait was small, so I did not get much of that helicopter effect on this cast. Also, by having the baits in strips, you won't have the same problem like I had here. Somehow my bait ended up spinning in the water by the current, which resulted in this line twist, and this is what I hate the most. Not only did I waited in vain, but all of my efforts has been wasted. I will admit that the ledger rig is far more ideal when it comes to casting, since the sinker is located at the bottom. But when it comes to fighting the fish, especially in areas where there is lots of snags, the running rig is more likely to land the fish more than the ledger rig. Now, another benefit I like to mention is that since this is on the bottom and this is going to be drifting up and down, this will be more appealing to the fish. But if the wave is rough, like going like this back and forth, that will result in a bit of a tangle, especially if you're planning to fish off the west coast. However, when you're fighting a fish, you're more likely to land it because, as you can see here, the sinker will be at the top and the fish will be fighting like this at the bottom, so the fish is not gonna be likely to get into like a tangle. And also, if it's like a predatory fish like a shark, the only thing that you're gonna get damaged is the main line here, and the worst thing you could lose is your hook. Whereas when you compare this to a ledger rig, the fish can drag this around and the sinker at the bottom can get caught anywhere. So if that happens, you can get stuck and the fish can either break you off or free itself, or worse, the fish can snap off the whole thing and you can lose more than the hook. You could end up losing your sinker, which is pretty expensive. In some situations, the fish can get more easily tangled around the ledger rig, especially the 2-hook ledger, and the risk of that is that the tangled fish can be an unwanted species, and if it's badly damaged, it makes releasing them hard because one, they could have a bleeding gill, or they're just so exhausted that they end up dying. And another is that a species of fish like a shark can cause major damage to it. If you look in this footage here, this 7-gill shark may look smooth and slimy, and even though this particular specimen had small teeth, the hide was like sandpaper. And if you look closely, it was rubbing against the rig. If it was a lot lighter, that would have snapped off really easily. Or if it was braid, it could have snapped off easily as well. But to show you on how abrasive the skin is, I will show you what the school shark had done to the rig that I had caught with it. I hope everyone has enjoyed watching that clip of me fighting that school shark off the west coast of the Manukau Harbour, and as you can see, it really did a number one. You can see a bit of abrasion around here, and you might see a bit of a teeth mark on the squid skirt, and this float completely destroyed, and this knot. Now, as you can see, I'm not sure if anyone can feel, well, no one will be able to feel this at all, but as you can feel here, this is very, very fluffy and cloudy, and that shark has done a number one. When you compare this to a clean new leader, yeah, you can obviously see a huge difference. When you're fishing off the boat, it's no big deal to use a big bait, but for surf casting, I generally use a small piece of bait. And for me personally, that reduces that helicopter effect problem. Although sometimes I would use a half a pilchard or a long strip of bait, but I don't go any bigger than that. So here are some good tips and tricks I like to share with some viewers before they start using this rig. One is to keep it simple. If you overcomplicate this, like adding additional components just to make it more fancy, it will just defeat the whole natural approach. Yes, I did use a lot of the additional components, but that didn't exactly improve anything. I've only caught that one snapper, and after that, not much turned up. For the trace length, I usually use up to 50 centimeters, but some fishermen like to use it up to 1 meter. I would only recommend it to use it somewhere that is not rocky, because the last thing you want to happen is the hook getting caught at the back. But the longer the trace, the more natural presentation it gives to the fish, as well as the bait is able to move more freely around. Some people like to use super short trace, and the benefit of this is that it only attracts bottom dwelling fish like snapper, and also reduces tangle to a degree. Plus, you can feel the bite more effectively too. This was proven at the Waikato River when I reduced my trace length to 30 centimeters. I was able to feel the bite more sensitively and was able to land some carp. Not only was I able to land some carp, my catch rate improved quickly due to the fact that I was able to detect the bite more accurately, which helped me to strike for the carps. Another good tip is, instead of using monofilament, in case the fish are line shy, you can convert to using fluorocarbon leader. The benefit of using fluorocarbon is that one is abrasive resistant, so it can survive around rough areas or the hide of a shark. Two is that it's invisible, so in clear water you can use it to fool the fish, and this is effective in freshwater where the fish are more sensitive and line shy. Three is that unlike monofilament, fluorocarbon does not deteriorate, although I would still wash it with fresh water, but it does last much longer than a regular mono. I hope everyone has enjoyed watching this video, and if you have, please make sure to check out my other videos, including my other tutorial videos. Always remember to be experimental when fishing, so that you'll be able to land more fish without having to waste too much time. Again, thank you for watching everybody, and I hope to see everybody next time.